There is a truth that follows you through lifetimes, patient as the tide, waiting not for your readiness, but for the moment when all resistance has been worn thin. This video did not find you by chance. Nothing that touches the deepest part of you ever does. There are encounters written in a language older than words, signed before you learn to speak, delivered when the soul can no longer pretend it does not know. You have been running from something you could not name, and now it has caught you not with force, but with the gentlest whisper. The one you have been straining to unhear for so long you forgot you were listening. The world taught you to call this feeling many things. Anxiety, restlessness, a vague dissatisfaction you learn to carry like a second shadow. But these are only the names we give to what we cannot face directly, the ways we soften what the soul knows with absolute clarity. There is something in you that has been waiting not for rescue, not for answers, but for permission to stop pretending that everything is as it should be. You were not meant to find this moment. This moment was meant to find you. There is a difference so profound that most lives pass without noticing it. One is the desperate search, the endless scrolling, the hope that somewhere in the noise there is a voice that will finally explain the ache. The other is the sudden recognition that what you have been seeking has been seeking you with far greater devotion, far greater patience than you ever brought to the search. The things that change us do not arrive when we are ready. They arrive when we are finally too tired to keep the door closed. And you are tired, are you not? Not the tiredness that sleep can cure, but the exhaustion that comes from maintaining a version of yourself that was never quite true, from speaking in a voice that was never quite your own, from living a life that fit to the shape others carved for you, but never the shape your soul was meant to fill. There was a day long ago when you learned that certain truths were dangerous, not because they would harm you, but because they would change you, and change has always been presented as a kind of death. So you buried them. You built a life on top of them. You became skilled at avoiding the places where they still breathe beneath the surface. And for a while, it worked. The way all running works when you do not look back. But the soul does not forget. It does not stop whispering simply because you have stopped listening. It watches every choice you make that takes you further from yourself. And it grieves quietly in a language only your body understands. The tightness in your chest that arrives without reason, the heaviness that settles on ordinary days, the feeling that you are living in a room just slightly too small, breathing air just slightly too thin, existing in a life that is almost yours, but not quite. You have called this many things: depression, anxiety, a chemical, imbalance, a failure of optimism, and perhaps all of these words contain a fragment of truth. But they are not the truth itself. They are the symptoms of a single ancient wound, the wound of living outside your own life, of being present in your days but absent from yourself, of speaking and moving and accomplishing and yet feeling like a ghost at your own existence. There are those who will tell you that this feeling is something to be fixed, medicated, or overcome through discipline and positive thinking. And there is kindness in these offers, a genuine desire to relieve suffering. But they mistake the symptom for the disease. They offer bandages for a wound that requires recognition, not covering. This is what you are not told. The discomfort you feel is not a malfunction. It is a message. The soul's way of saying that the distance between who you are and who you have agreed to be has grown too wide, the gap too painful to ignore. Every moment of unexplained sadness, every wave of anxiety that arrives without clear cause, every night you lie awake wondering why nothing feels quite right, even when everything should be fine. These are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are signs that something in you is still right enough to notice the wrongness of the life you are living. The world does not want you to know this. The world prefers you manageable, productive, content with the small corner of existence you have been assigned. It prefers you grateful for distractions, numb to contradictions, too busy to ask the questions that have no easy answers. And so it has taught you to mistrust the very instincts that might save you, to call your intuition paranoia, to name your discernment judgment, to frame your sensitivity as weakness and your depth as overthinking. You have been trained so carefully to be suspicious of the voice that rises in the quiet, the knowing that arrives without proof, the sense that there is more to this life than what you have been shown. But here is what cannot be trained away: truth. It does not shout, it does not force. It simply is, patient as stone, waiting for the moment when all the noise finally quiets, and you have no choice but to hear. This is that moment, not because you chose it, but because you are finally ready to stop choosing against it. The exhaustion you feel is not defeat. It is the last barrier falling. The resistance that kept you safe from change has worn itself out, and now there is nothing left between you and the recognition that has been waiting all along. You are not broken, you are breaking open. There is a difference so crucial that missing it means missing everything. What you have called emptiness is not absence, but space. Space that has been cleared, sometimes violently, sometimes gradually, for something new to grow. The parts of you that no longer fit had to fall away. The beliefs that kept you small had to crack. The identities you wore like armor had to become too heavy to carry. This is not loss. This is preparation, the soul making room for its own return. Think of the seed that splits in darkness. To the seed, it must feel like dying. The shell that protected it, that defined its shape, that kept it whole and safe, begins to crack. And in that cracking, there is no certainty, no guarantee that what comes next will be better than what was. There is only the terrifying vulnerability of opening, the letting go of one form before the next has fully emerged. But the seed does not split because it is broken. It splits because it is becoming. And you too are not falling apart. You are falling into place. The place you were always meant to occupy, but were too afraid, too conditioned, too controlled to claim. This video found you because you are ready, even if you do not feel ready, especially if you do not feel ready. Readiness is not confidence. It is not the absence of fear. It is the moment when staying the same becomes more painful than changing, when the life you have been living becomes so unbearable that even the unknown begins to look like mercy. You have reached that point. You may not have admitted it yet. You may still be telling yourself that everything is fine, that you just need to try harder, think more positively, be more grateful. But your soul knows. It has always known. And it has been orchestrating this moment with a precision that your conscious mind could never achieve. Every disappointment that taught you to stop expecting. Every betrayal that showed you who not to trust. Every failure that stripped away the identities you thought defined you. Every loss that left you standing in the ruins of what you thought your life would be. None of it was random. None of it was punishment. All of it was preparation. The breaking down of the false so the true could finally have space to breathe. The dismantling of the borrowed life so your actual life could begin. You did not come here looking for answers. You came here because some part of you remembered what it was like before you learned to be afraid of your own vastness. Before you were taught that dreams are childish and sensitivity is weakness, and wanting more than what you have been given is selfish. There was a time, brief and bright, when you knew exactly who you were. When you moved through the world with a certainty that needed no justification. When your desires were not yet shaped by others' expectations, and your choices were not yet filtered through fear of judgment. You were whole then. Not because you were perfect, but because you were undivided. The voice in your head was your own. The feelings in your body were trusted. The knowing in your soul was followed, and then the world began its work. Slowly, methodically, with the best of intentions and the worst of outcomes, it taught you to abandon yourself, to value what others think more than what you know, to measure your worth by standards you did not create, to pursue goals that mean nothing to your soul but everything to the systems that need your compliance. The process was so gradual you did not notice it happening. One compromise at a time, one silenced instinct, one swallowed truth, until one day you woke up and realized you could no longer hear yourself. The voice that once guided you had been buried under so many other voices, so many shoulds and musts and have-tos that you could not find it anymore. But it is still there. It has always been there. Quieter now, yes. Harder to hear beneath the noise, but unbroken. Waiting not for you to become someone new, but for you to remember who you have always been. This is why you are here. This is why this moment had to find you. Not because you were lost, but because you were on the edge of being found. Not by someone else, but by yourself. The self you left behind when leaving behind became the price of belonging. The pain you feel is not random. It is directional. It is pointing you toward something. Every time you feel that ache in your chest, that longing you cannot name, that sense that something essential is missing, even though you have everything you are supposed to want, that is your soul speaking, telling you that the life you are living is not the life you came here to live, that the person you are pretending to be is not the person you actually are, that the dreams you buried did not die. They are only waiting, patient as seeds in winter, for the moment when you finally give them permission to grow. You have been afraid of this knowing, and rightfully so, because to acknowledge it means to change. And change means letting go of the safety of the familiar, even when the familiar is killing you slowly. It means disappointing people who love the version of you that fits their needs. It means stepping into uncertainty with no guarantee of success. It means choosing your truth over their comfort, your path over their approval, your life over the one they planned for you. This is terrifying. This is why you have avoided it for so long. Not because you are weak, but because the cost of honesty is so high and the rewards are not immediate, and the world does not celebrate those who choose themselves over the collective agreement. But here is what they do not tell you. The cost of dishonesty is higher. The price of living a borrowed life compounds with every passing year. What starts as a small compromise becomes a chasm. What begins as a temporary adjustment becomes a permanent prison. And one day you wake up and realize you have spent decades building a life that does not belong to you, achieving goals that mean nothing to your soul, maintaining relationships that require you to be someone you are not. And by then, the fear is not just of change. It is of the realization that you have wasted the only life you will ever have trying to be acceptable to people who would not love the real you anyway. This video found you before that moment became irreversible. Before the gap between who you are and who you have been pretending to be grew so wide that crossing back became impossible. You are still close enough to yourself to return. The thread has not been cut, only stretched thin. And every word you are hearing now is pulling that thread tighter, drawing you closer to the center you abandoned, reminding you of what you already know but have been too afraid to admit. You are not here by accident. You are here because your soul arranged it. Because somewhere in the machinery of your life, in the algorithm of your searching, in the pattern of your pain, there was an opening, a moment when the defenses were down and the truth could slip through. And this truth is simple, so simple it sounds almost absurd. You are allowed to be yourself. You are allowed to want what you want. You are allowed to leave what does not serve you. You are allowed to build a life that feels true, even if it looks nothing like what you were told success should be. The permission you have been waiting for will never come from outside. No authority will grant it. No achievement will earn it. No amount of suffering will make you worthy of it. The permission can only come from you, and it comes not through confidence or certainty or the absence of fear. It comes through the simple, radical act of choosing yourself anyway, of saying yes to the voice that has been whispering your name in the dark, of following the thread of your own longing, even when everyone else is telling you to let go, of trusting that the life your soul is calling you toward, however uncertain, however difficult, is more real than the life your fear is telling you to keep. This is the transformation, not a sudden enlightenment, not a dramatic rebirth, but a quiet returning, a gradual remembering, a slow, steady choosing of truth over comfort, authenticity over approval, aliveness over safety. It does not happen all at once. It happens in moments, small decisions that feel like Nothing and change everything. The choice to speak honestly when lying would be easier. The decision to leave when staying would be simpler. The courage to try when failing seems certain. Each choice a thread, each thread a path, each path leading you closer to the person you were always meant to be. You will never be the same again, not because this video taught you something new, but because it reminded you of something ancient. Something you knew before you learned to forget. That your life belongs to you, that your truth matters, that the voice inside you, the one you have been taught to silence, is not your enemy. It is your guide, and it has been waiting with more patience than you can imagine for this moment, for you to finally stop running, to finally stop pretending, to finally stop choosing everyone else's comfort over your own soul. The world will not make this easy. It will offer you 1,000 reasons to go back, to be reasonable, to be grateful for what you have, to stop asking for more, and some days you will want to listen. Some days the old life will look safer, simpler, better than the uncertainty of the new. But you will remember this moment. You will remember the feeling of recognition, the sense that something true was finally spoken, the knowing that rose up from a place deeper than thought, and that memory will carry you when nothing else can. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are not too late. You are exactly where you need to be, hearing exactly what you need to hear, in the only moment that could have reached you. This video found you because your soul sent for it, because the part of you that knows who you really are has been calling for help, for witness, for permission, and now it has arrived, not as rescue, but as recognition. Not as answer, but as question. The question you have been avoiding because you already know what answering it will require. The path ahead is not clear. It will not be easy, but it will be yours. And that is worth more than all the safety, all the approval, all the comfort you have been settling for. The life you are being called to live is waiting. It has always been waiting, and now finally you are ready to meet it. The soul remembers what the noise made you forget. If these words touch something ancient in you, write,